Hey, what's up? It's Fun Friday, so let's talk about that Teen Vogue article and anal sex. Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome to Sexual Thoughts with Dr. Nick. And yes, it is Friday. It is Fun Friday. People are leaving work. It's after 5 o'clock. People are heading out. Hopefully you'll have a great weekend and ready for Monday. And for me, I said, you know what, let's slow it down a bit and let's talk about something a little bit different and a little bit lighter. And I really wanted to talk about that Teen Vogue article on anal sex that really kind of sent the entire country into a tizzy. And people are burning the magazines. People are planning to boycott the magazines over one article, okay? And in my opinion, I'm actually really glad that they wrote that article and they published it. They weren't afraid to publish it, and they actually stood up and published it. And I really think that it's important for people to learn about anal sex and anal play. Let's talk about that today. So early on in the article, she actually goes on and mentions the pleasure that can come from anal sex. And she does it in a pretty unique way where she talks about having a conversation before having anal sex. And that's something I also highly recommend, where you have the conversation about whether this is something that you want to try or want to engage in prior to ending up in that hot and heavy situation. Then she kind of goes into talking about the nerve endings that are found in the anus and how much pleasure that they can give a person, which is actually very true. And then she goes into more heavier detail about the enjoyment from anal play and from anal sex. And she also stresses that, you know what, anal sex is not for everybody, period. And then secondly, she goes on to really get into the safety aspect of anal sex. She really talks about condoms, lube, and going slow. Because yes, actually, anal sex is actually a lot easier, quote unquote easier, if you use a condom. And she also talks about using various types of lube, where I recommend a thicker water-based lube with a latex condom. Therefore, you don't have any issues with like silicone condoms with silicone lube, and they start to fall apart, and it's like you won't have that issue, period. And then she also talks about taking your time and going slow, because anal sex is not something that you can just jump in there and start hammering away. No, because that will end up being a very poor experience for you and your partner. And third, I really like how she did this, where she mentioned how pornography is actually a poor education source for anal sex, because you have to remember those porn actors are actually paid to do that. And more importantly, you don't see the prep time that they have to go through just so that they can make a very hot anal sex scene. So in porn, that's all fantasy, as I mentioned several times over before, and you only get to see the great ending result where his penis just slides into the anus and he starts hammering away or whatever, or taking these long, deep strokes, and he or she makes a nice cry of anal pleasure or painful pleasure, and you don't see any mistakes or any bloopers or anything like that. You just see the end result. So I think writing articles like this and reading articles like this help to dispel that myth from the fantasy. Oh yeah, and also really quickly, I just want to go back a little bit and talk about the people who are protesting this article. There's people who are planning on boycotting Teen Vogue, and people who are burning the magazines and all that jazz. And they always seem to use this same argument, this tired argument, that this article is promoting gay sex. Now let me stop right there and let's go back a little bit. Whereas if you don't know, you will learn in a second that heterosexual men can also enjoy anal play and anal sex. So watch this. Let's say they have their girlfriend or their lady or their wife is going down on them, and she's sucking them off. She can just as easily stick her finger up his butt and tickle his prostate. And that's where, because the prostate is where some of the majority of the pleasure comes from for guys during anal play, okay? And let's take it a step further. if she doesn't want to use her finger, there are various butt plugs or small butt plugs up there. Some vibrate, some have batteries in them or whatever, or even larger size butt plugs that the guy may enjoy. But it's all about pleasure. It's not about labeling something as gay or deviant or sodomy or whatever you're going to call it. Just stop, because you know what? This is getting really tiring. I'm tired of saying this same stupid argument for 20 years. It's more about pleasure, but they can't seem to understand that. But they always fall back on that same tired argument that it's gay sex and it's wrong and it's not in the Bible. Sometimes people just need to sit down. And so, as I close out this video, I just want to say that we've been engaging in anal sex for thousands of years already. It's nothing new at all. And at the same time, the numbers or percentages seem to be increasing. There was an article in the Journal of Sex Medicine from 2010 where they pretty much said that around 40% of women had engaged in anal sex within the past year, I believe. And there's another article out there, research article where they asked if people have ever engaged in anal sex or anal play, and that came in around 30 to 35%. And all those numbers show an increase over the previous decades. And I just want to jump back to the Teen Vogue article. And I just want to be clear. It's not like she said, when you have anal sex. She didn't say that at all. The article was written from a perspective of if you ever engage in anal sex, I want you to think about these 7, 8, 9, 10 things before you actually engage in anal sex, so you can have fun and do it safely. And I really hope that the author comes back and does like a anal sex 201 versus a 101, where she talks about the maturity level necessary for engaging in anal sex, especially for teens, the proper diet that could be necessary to engage in anal sex, and also to take it a step further, let's talk about hygiene in anal sex. And so on that note, I'm out. You guys have a great day. Have a great weekend. Stay tuned, and I'll talk to you soon. All right. Bye.